Praise the Lord. I hope you're having a blessed day today. This is day number 39 in our devotions, and we're going to get right into it today. I hope you're having a blessed day, and I'm glad you're back with us today as well. We're in the book of Matthew, chapter 5. We're just continuing along through the book of Matthew, and we're in verse number 21. Now, yesterday in our devotions, we talked about how Jesus is getting into a different part of the Sermon on the Mount here, or at least a different part to us. It's the part where he deals with the opposites, so to speak, or he deals with he goes through and several times he says the phrase "you have heard" or "you have heard it said," and then he goes on to explain a deeper truth about a particular subject. And as we talked about yesterday, anger, lust, adultery, oaths, retaliation, enemies, different things about how to treat certain subjects that we deal with on a regular basis. And he wasn't trying to take away from the law, as we're going to explain today. He wasn't trying to take away from the law, because remember, Jesus said, I did not come to do away with the law, but to fulfill the law and the prophets. And so Christ did not come to say, okay, well, I know what it said back then, but just forget all of that, and this is what I'm saying. That's not what he's saying at all. What Christ is doing is this. He's saying, okay, you've heard people say this, and you've heard it said this, and you've heard the law of Moses read, and you've heard this. He said, but let me explain it in a deeper way. And it might be a little opposite of what you've heard, because what you've heard is this. He says, but let me help you to understand it even further here. So let's jump on the first one of these today in verse number 21. He's dealing with the subject of anger here. Now, this is a subject that will be dealt with. All of these subjects we're talking about here, some way or another, will be dealt with more in the Gospels to come, in the other chapters. Parables and different things relate to these subjects as well, whether it be about the anger or the forgiveness, lust, dealing with your enemies, or so forth. There's so many times that Jesus deals with this all through his ministry. But on the Sermon on the Mount, he preaches on this and teaches on this, and he's trying to get us to understand and help us to understand what is the real heart of things here. And the heart of the law, or the law says one thing: thou shalt not kill, or thou shalt not murder. And Jesus dives into this and says, okay, you've heard it said, thou shalt not kill. Let's read verse 21. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill. And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. So he repeats the commandment here. I believe the sixth commandment about thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not kill. So he's repeating this, but then he's emphasizing this, and in no way is he lessening the commandment that says thou shalt not murder or kill. He is only trying to emphasize that the killing, yes, is a terrible, horrible thing. Thou shalt not kill or murder. He says, but where does it begin? And it begins in the heart. It begins in the heart of an individual, because if you look upon somebody and hate them, let's read go on here. He says in verse 22, but I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of judgment. Now think about that for just a moment. Whosoever shall hate his brother without cause, or be angry with his brother without cause. I mean, anger in itself is not necessarily a sin. You can be angry about something, and it can be a righteous indignation, if you want to call it that. It can be an anger that's not necessarily hating someone that you want to hurt them or something like that. I'm angry because our nation allows certain things to take place in this country. We sanction murder in this country when we take innocent, babies from their mother's wombs. I'm angry about that. I would like to see that completely stopped. I would like to see that ended in our nation. I know that goes against the commandments of God. I know that it not only hurts the heart of God, but it hurts our society as well. Saying all of that, yes, I can be angry about certain things without looking at my brother wanting to kill him or something like that. I mean, today we see this in our society. As I'm doing this devotion today, there's a lot going on. I think it's in the city of Minneapolis, somewhere up in Minnesota, where a police officer used too much force in making an arrest and so forth, and a man has lost his life. A lot of things on social media about it, and all the things that are happening, and now there's been burning of buildings and burning of public property, government property, looting, so there's all sorts of bad things have happened on account of this. And all of it, and you look back and it stems from the fact where you look at it and you say, man, is this all because, white people don't like black people and black people don't like white people? Well, that is a lot of the root of it right there. The root of the thing is in the heart. It's sin. Right in the very heart of man is that stiff-necked, stubborn will, and that sinful will that, hates his brother without cause, that's angry without cause. So Christ gets to the very root of it, to the very heart of the matter. And he's saying, if you're angry without cause against your brother to the point, that becomes hate, he said, you're guilty of murder. Because in your heart you've killed him. In your heart you've contemplated these very acts. You say, well, isn't it worse, Pastor Steve? Isn't it worse if a person actually does physically kill someone and commits the act of killing someone? Oh, at that point they've taken it to the very ultimate, or if you want to call it the very climax of the sin. They've taken it to that point where there's no return or no looking back, because at that point, somebody has lost their life. If a man commits murder in his heart, at least he has not committed that physical act against the other person. But in his heart, he has committed that act, maybe not just once, but maybe 10, 20, 30 times over and over again. And that sin destroys that man's life, even though he may never carry it forth to the other person and actually physically do it. That sin is in his heart. And that sin is saying, if I get a chance, or if I feel like there's an opportunity, I'm going to carry this act through. So Christ is trying to help us to understand here that unjust anger, these things are just like murder. It's just like the act of murder. So we need to check that anger. Make sure that we're not hating hating anyone. Make sure we're not angry without a cause. Make sure that if we do have a strife with someone, as we'll go into tomorrow's devotion, we take quick steps to be reconciled. God bless you. I hope you have a great and wonderful day, and I hope this helped you a little bit.